Clearview Social launched in 2013. They scaled up to 2021 to over 2 million bucks in ARR, and ultimately were generating real EBITDA, 400 to 700K per year. They sold for 13x EBITDA in 2021. Adrian owned 60% of the business. Employees owned about 9% of a 15% option pool. So they celebrated. There are about 15 folks in that option pool as well. And again, at the exit, Adrian then said, okay, 70% of the cash came up front, 20% in year two, and then the last in year three, in year two, which he's just finishing out now, moving on to his next thing, which is helping and consulting companies hit that first $1 million mark. Hey folks, my guest today is Adrian Dayton. His passion is helping companies scale. He learned this by accident. 3 years ago, he's asked to volunteer as a coach for a group of young entrepreneurs as part of EO Accelerator in Utah. He was hesitant because he was building his own SaaS company, but then he agreed. In his first year, he helped multiple young companies grow and reach $1 million in revenue. In the process, he actually ended up selling his own company, Clearview Social. At the time of sale, they had over 60,000 users in 12 countries. We had the pleasure of interviewing him back in 2020 pre-sale. Now we're going to get an update. Adrian, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's go.
All right. So for folks who missed that article, I'm going to give it a quick summary, right? You had scaled about 180 customers. You were effectively Hootsuite for lawyers. You had passed about a $2 million run rate. And I believe you have to correct me on this one. I think you were bootstrapped, right?
We took a small amount of angel funding, so it's kind of 50-50. Yeah.
But small, like under 500K.
Yeah. We took about $1 million. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I still call that capital efficient. You took less than 1x your ARR.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I'd love for the next 15 minutes to effectively be a crash course on how to sell your sub $5 million SaaS company, right? So let's start backwards. What was the date that you guys announced the closing?
Like the sale of the company?
Sale of the company.
Yeah. So March 22nd, 2021.
And you launched in what year?
December 20th of 2013.
So it's an 8-year journey here. Okay. Yeah. So again, people, this is what it takes, right? It's the long, slow journey, right? So 8 years. Now talk to me about why you decided to sell and how you met the buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of got to this point where I had put my team in place. We had a great product and we kind of hit up against a TAM problem. So the industry just wasn't that big and we'd eaten most of the market. And after trying to pivot into other sectors, I just realized I just wasn't having fun anymore, and it was so much fun building it that it just kind of was time. Right. So that's kind of what made me decide to sell. And also we had turned the corner in terms of positive EBITDA. And so it was like, not only am I kind of feeling like I'm ready to sell, we have something that someone might buy,
Yep. So how did you do that? Right. I mean, you were bored, so you wanted to sell, but you don't want everyone to think you want to sell because you get a bad price.
Yeah, you don't want to think it's a fire sale, right? So honestly, what I did is I reached out to a few friends that had sold their companies just to get advice. And one of those people said to me, told me their whole story. And they're like, by the way, I think our platform might want to buy your company after I told them my numbers. And I said, okay, that's great. And then at the same time, I had a kind of follow-up podcast with you where you said, what's your EBITDA? And you said, I think someone would write you a check for your company right now. And I was like, let's go. And I came on your program and you lined up 3 buyers. And actually, so this, I haven't told you this, Nathan, but it was like a perfect storm. So this other friend who had sold their company, his private equity firm was interested in us. They're kind of dragging their feet. And then you brought to the table another buyer who right on the program made an offer. They sent over a term sheet. We had another term sheet from these guys. And the crazy thing is the buyer you introduced me to, their numbers, their terms were terrible, but the other guys didn't know that, right?
Yeah, so it gets the ball going. It doesn't matter if it's terrible.
That's right. And they didn't know all the terms. They just knew the price, right? So they had much better terms and they bumped up the price and, structured a 2-year earnout so that I could get all the money I wanted for the company. And yeah, we had a deal. And
that's amazing. Oh, what's going on there, YouTube? Good to see you guys. Now imagine this. You love watching these interviews with SaaS founders, but imagine if we took all of the valuation data out from over 2,807 interviews I've done manually. Saves you a lot of time. Well, we've done this. We've built it into the beautiful interface inside of FounderPath. Check this out. I'll show you how you can access this in a second, but you log in, you connect your Stripe account, you see your valuation real time, you can see what it changed over the past 88 days, and even set goals for valuation this year. Now, the secret to valuation is there's many different ways to value a SaaS business. So the reason you're going to see 3 or 4 different valuations inside of your Founder Path dashboard, this is all free by the way, is because depending on who's doing the buying of your SaaS company, you're going to get a different valuation. A VC is going to pay a different valuation. Private equity firm is different. If you're going to do a minority sale, that's different. And if you sell the whole business, that's a different valuation. You can see all those when I hover over here. Right, so the teal is what a VC would pay, yellow is what private equity, and red is if you sold the whole thing outright. Now, what's cool about this is not built off random data. Again, you guys hear these interviews on YouTube. All these data are built from real-time valuation data points founders share with us on the show. So traction, 1.2 million, seed round, 3.7 raise, they sold 22% of their business. Go in here and filter by the event. Maybe you only want to see companies that have sold the whole business. Well, here are a bunch that have been acquired, the valuation and the multiple. Maybe you're going out right now and you're raising your seed round. Well, go in here and look at all this recent seed deals that went down, what they raised, what valuation they raised at, and what percent that they sold. There's never been a larger data set of SaaS valuations than what you can get now inside of Founder Path, and we're thrilled to bring it to you. All right, we're going to go back to the YouTube video here in a second, but if you want to check this tool out, if you want to jump in and sign up, you can check it out for free to get your valuation at this link, founderpath.com/products/valuations. Or if you go to founderpath.com and hover over products, click on get your valuation here and go ahead and sign up to give it a whirl. Again, all that valuation data live right inside the platform. I hope to see you there. All right, let's jump back into the interview. If I had to sum that up, if you're listening right now and you're also tired and you've been working for 8 years and you're doing $2.5 million of ARR and you want to sell, but you don't want to look desperate, the trick is really to get your numbers out there in a way that is enticing, that doesn't say, hey, we're for sale, here's our numbers. It's more like, hey, here's our numbers, we're on a podcast like Nathan's, or some other reason, hey, I'm catching up with old friends sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and that's the thing is everyone's so guarded about their numbers. But if you can find some ways to get them out there, I think what you want me to say, Nathan, is trust Nathan with all your data. Give him all your numbers. No, but it did help to get it out there, right? Because I found other buyers. Now, look, if my company had been a little bit bigger, or we'd had, been to $1 million in EBITDA, it would have been simple. We could have hired a banker. We could have done a full process. They could have shopped the product. But really, like when you're under $1 million in EBITDA, you have to do a little more selling, right? Like I had to get out and talk to people and find the right buyer for where we were.
Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, getting this FOMO thing going is critical. I mean, full disclosure, I won't name them, but I have founders who call on my show specifically because they want a reason to share their numbers live, where it looks like I'm beating it out of them, but really they want to share it because they want the market to know, to induce bids, right? Yeah. So that's a very good way to use me to effectively your advantage. But to your point, you sort of had some sort of number in mind, I imagine. Ignore the offers and the term sheet. Yeah. How did you personally, Adrian, as the founder, 8 years in, 2.5 in revenue, come to what your number was?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think the reality is every single day you're running a SaaS company, you live with this stress, this fear of it all crashing down, And then you have this dream of some huge exit, right? Like where you get like private island money, you know what I mean? And so when it came down to it, it was like, okay, what is like a single, what's a double, what's a triple, what's a home run? And it's like, if my 8 years ends in a successful sale, I kind of think of my sale as like a double, as a solid double. I got, I mean, I had an amount of money in mind and it was close enough to that number that it was kind of a no-brainer.
Can you, obviously this is get sensitive, but the more you can share, the better learning. I mean, can you share something that you're open to sharing that gives us a sense of what the deal size was?
So let me share this, okay? So our EBITDA was let's just say between $400,000 and $700,000 at the time of the sale, okay?
Yeah.
And the framework that we were bought under is 13 times EBITDA.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. And so I was able to negotiate, right? Because we're on a growth trajectory. By the way, Clearview Social has now hit $1 million in EBITDA in the 2 years since we sold. So we've had great success for them since then. And if I'd waited 2 years, I would have made more money, but it's like, I have no regrets. It was like the right thing at the right time, but kind
How
of
did you
that
calculate that EBITDA? Was it like, okay, I'm going to make this up. They're buying you in March, take March profit, multiply by 12, or was it trailing 12-month total EBITDA added together was 400K to 700K?
Yeah, it really was projected 2021 EBITDA.
Okay. And then a
Right. And so
multiple of
there's,
13x on that.
yeah, that's right. That's
I
right.
see.
And
Well,
look,
that's a
and this,
win to get them
and
to
this,
agree to a projection.
yeah, that's right. But this is also the private equity game is this kind of EBITDA arbitrage. Because if they
Mhm.
can buy companies at 13x, they put them all together into a bigger company and then they can sell them for 20x.
Yep. Yep.
So you're
Interesting.
right. So it's like, and I figured all of that out like a month before the deal closed, right? Like it took going through all the due diligence and realize like where their heads were at really on the valuations.
And your 2020 projected EBITDA, you said was about between 400 and 700, about 500, 600K, something like that.
Yeah, around there. Yeah.
Interesting. How did you go about projecting that and building confidence in that number? Was there
Well,
top
and
line growth? Was it cost
yeah,
cutting to get
th-
juice the monkey or?
this is my big learning through the process. I had tons of ad backs that I didn't think of as EBITDA, but once I put all those ad backs back in, like I probably underpriced my company a little bit.
Name them. This is great data. What name some ad backs that surprised
Oh,
you?
just like ad backs, like I had a company car and I had extra like coaching resources that I used that didn't need to be part, right? And so it's like when I started adding all these things back, we're looking at like $200,000 or $300,000 of EBITDA, right? And you times that by 13,
Yep.
it's a substantial number, right?
Yep.
And so once I had done all the financials for them and shown them what the real number was going to be, I think they were doing cartwheels like, oh, this is better than they expected,
Yep.
in
Yep.
terms
Yep.
of EBITDA.
Okay, and then let's go into the actual deal structure. You mentioned you were there for 2 years and that you had to put in those 2 years to get the ultimate number you wanted. So let's say the total deal size was 100%. What percent would you say was sort of like cash up front versus earn out versus like stock in the acquiring company?
Yeah, yeah. So the way they structured the deal, it was about 70% upfront, 20% year one, 10% year two. So
Okay,
I had a big
interesting.
incentive to do great in year one. But then the thing is, if they hit the number in year two, I still get the money because it's based on my stock ownership, not on my participation.
Explain what that means.
Okay, so because I owned whatever 60% of the company as a shareholder, the way the deal was structured, all the shareholders, got a first and second year earnout based on the performance of the company,
I see. So you own
not based on me
60% of Clearview when it's sold.
when it's sold, right?
I
And they
see.
bought
I
and they
see.
bought 100% of it, but as a shareholder, I had rights that as long as we hit our EBITDA target in 2021, EBITDA target in 2022, which we haven't done yet, but they're on track, right? It's like that I'm going to get this other
Yeah.
piece. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. So there was no stock. You guys didn't take any stock in the acquiring company.
Well, so I had the option to roll in whatever money I wanted into the private equity fund, right? And so I
Ah,
opted to take a chunk of that and roll it into the private equity firm. And when they have a recapitalization event, then I'll get a second bite of the apple.
did they give you premium terms as a private equity fund investor? Like, bigger carry, less, instead of 2 and 20, it's like, 1 and something else.
Well, it's not a true private equity firm. It's really a family office that buys
Okay.
up companies and recaps them every few years. So it's a cool
Interesting.
model. Yeah, yeah. So I have the same terms as all of the other kind of, LPs or whatever.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Well, so I mean, I guess folks can do the math, right? If EBITDA projected in 2021 was between 400 and 700, let's say it was just 500K to make the math easy at a 13x, it's like a 6.5 deal price of which 70% was upfront. So I think it's 4.5 million cash up front with a juice or kicker, of another call it 1 to 2 million you could earn over the next 24 months effectively.
Yeah. So you're within 15% of all my numbers there.
Yeah. So why not leave?
I mean,
why?
you get the idea.
Yeah,
Right?
why there's a lot of founders that like get these earnouts and like because
Yeah.
30%, it's like your time is more valuable than the extra million you could earn over the next 2 years. So why not
Yeah.
leave right when it closed?
Well, it's like my earnout in that first year, I didn't even have to stay a whole year. Like we closed end of March. I just had to stay till the end of December. And it's like, I have a great team. We have a great flow. I already was only working 20 hours a week because I had a great team,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, okay, I could keep my benefits, keep making money, and then guarantee that I get this first year earnout. So it
Smart.
just made sense. But by the beginning of the next year, I actually went to a ski event with Dan Martell with all his other to bald face. I don't know. He's probably invited.
This is an intense. This is not like a go little like a little ski event. This is like get in a helicopter with skis, drop you to the top of the mountain, like almost die on your way down,
that's right.
kind of ski.
So I'm with all these amazing entrepreneurs, a full year into this earnout, and they're all living the life of their dreams, building their new things, or on to their next adventure. And I got back from that trip, and I was just like, dude, it's time for me to like take my life, back. And so I literally came back from that trip, gave my notice, and it took them a few months to find my replacement. Now I'm on to my next thing. So
what is your next thing?
Yeah. So what I loved building my company. And then 3 years ago, as you said, I started volunteering as over the EO accelerators, helping companies grow to $1 million in revenue a year. And in that first group, I've had like 7 people graduate already and hit that number. And I was doing it for free. I wasn't even getting paid, but I just loved it. And so now what I do is my company is called Scale to Sell. And I am a professional EOS implementer, the entrepreneur operating system that follows basically the system laid out in Traction. And so that's what I do full time now. So I launched it a few months ago. I already have 9 clients, and I love the work. I love helping companies and executive teams not go through all the suffering I went through in my first few years, right? Because there's a simple structure for growing and selling a company, and that's what I'm trying to help companies do.
When you did sell your company, how many folks were on the team full time?
So we had 15 people.
So for someone listening right now thinking about selling, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, how do I tell the team? Like, what about people that don't understand how their options worked? Like, how do you do all that?
So this is obviously there's some training around options, and people like it's complicated. Options are complicated. But here was my biggest surprise in selling my company. Universally, all of my employees were so thrilled that we sold, because it's like winning the World Series. It's like we built a company and we sold it, right? Like everyone was so happy that we set this goal and we achieved it together.
How much did they own at exit? The ESOP pool effectively, like 10%, 15 or nothing?
Yeah. So the ESOP pool was, we had set aside about 15%, but we had only awarded about 9 of the 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So got it. So good. I mean, at a $6.5 million deal, right? 10%, that's $600,000 to split amongst, the employees that have been working for a couple of years.
And we had 2 or 3 employees that they got the biggest check they'd ever seen in their life. And it wasn't life-changing, but it was a great outcome.
How did you teach them about things like taxes and how to process that and QSBS and all of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I didn't really tell them about QSBS, but because I think
you're a lawyer. Come on, that's like a big thing.
No, I mean only because as option holders, they don't get the advantages of QSBS.
Is that because they didn't get it on day one? They didn't have it for 5 years.
Right. So under QSBS, which like every company, every software company out there, if you're not a C Corp, like change to a C Corp immediately, because you have to hold for 5 years as a C Corp to get QSBS protection. So best advice anyone ever gave me was to have a C Corp, not an LLC, so that I could get QSBS and not have to pay.
So the reason, just to be clear, the reason your employees can't take advantage of that is because they were on vesting plans and options versus you had the common shares with prior 5 years to exit. So you could take advantage of QSBS.
Right. And one of my employees, my first engineer, he left a few years before and he exercised his options.
When he left.
Right. And so he had actual shares, but he didn't hold them for 5 years.
For 5 years. Yeah.
Right. So anyway.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't explain it to them because I don't think it wouldn't have made them any, I don't know, sadder or happier to know about it.
If they wanted to optimize that for taxes, could they have rolled their earnings into the family office, like private equity fund, and effectively hold those common shares until the 5 years hit and then take the?
No, they couldn't. I mean, the big challenge is just that the whole point of options is that you maximize for taxes, right? You give options so they don't have to pay taxes on them, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have to pay taxes on those options, you're taking a huge risk if the company doesn't succeed, right? So I don't know. So I wish that option holders had better tax treatment, because it seems kind of unfair that these option holders, they're taking all the same risks as the original entrepreneur, in like staying with this company, and then they get taxed with regular income. So it's not. I just don't think it's very equitable.
What else for founders like you thinking about selling and they've got a team of 15? What else should they think about? Talk to me about the things that like surprise you that you never read about in a blog. Just it hit you over the
Yeah.
side of the head. It was a last minute emergency thing you had to get done before you close the deal.
Yeah. So probably the most expensive investment that was 100% worth it was 2 years before sale. We hired a fractional CFO company to come in and completely clean up our books. And sorry,
Which firm? What's their
when I
URL?
say clean, so we used Preferred CFO. It's a local company here in Utah that they work nationally though. And they made sure all of our accrual postings and all of our just everything was dialed in exactly the way a buyer wants to see it. And listen to this. When we sold the company that bought us, when they handed our finances to the outside accounting firm to do the due diligence, they literally said, "We have a Christmas gift for you. These are the best finances we've ever seen, from one of these small size SaaS companies."
That's amazing.
Right?
Okay, so
So it's like
preferredcfo.com. What did you
Yeah.
pay them per month?
So they're expensive up front. So we paid them 5 or 6 grand a month, but that was just for the 3 months for them to clean up our books. Right. So once they did that, we actually transitioned to something else. But just to make sure your financials are dialed in and all of your accrual, all of your postings and the way your amortization sheets, charts are set up. I mean, it's just going to leave less question marks in the minds of your buyers.
So that makes sense. So you spend 18 to 24K sort of getting everything cleaned from preferredcfo.com. What'd you move to after that then?
Yeah. After that, they had created all the reports. We had a really good bookkeeper and we were able to just use
the same.
Right. I mean, we had really good practices.
So internal bookkeeper.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, interesting. I love that approach. That makes tons of sense. The cleanliness does pay off, and it helps to build that hygiene early on. So, very cool, man. Well, Adrian, if people want to connect with you now, where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn or Twitter is the best place. So Adrian Dayton, I'm the only Adrian Dayton on LinkedIn and Twitter. So yeah, check me out there. Yeah.
Let's wrap up here with the famous five. Number one, favorite book. You can't say Traction.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah. Favorite book is dang it, man. You got to give me preparation for these questions.
I know. If you don't have one top of mind, we can skip it too.
So I'm going to go with the book Dune. So sci-fi book for you there. Okay.
That's good. Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
CEO that I'm following, there really isn't. Next question.
Number three, what's your favorite online tool when you're building Clearview?
Yeah, probably Trello.
Mm-hmm.
I love Trello for managing meetings and tasks.
Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8 hours every night.
That's good. And situation, married, single, kids?
Married, 3 kids.
3 kiddos. And what are you, 42 now?
43.
43. Very good.
Last question. If you ask me my birthday and credit card number, I'm going to get a little worried.
Yeah. What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
I wish when I was 20, I knew the power of setting big long-term goals.
Guys, there you have it. Clearview Social launched in 2013. They scaled up to 2021 to over $2 million in ARR, and ultimately were generating real EBITDA, 400 to 700K per year. They sold for 13x EBITDA in 2021. Adrian owned 60% of the business. Employees owned about 9% of a 15% option pool. So they celebrated. There are about 15 folks in that option pool as well. And again, at the exit, Adrian then said, okay, 70% of the cash came up front, 20% in year 2, and then the last in year 3, in year 2, which he's just finishing out now, moving on to his next thing, which is helping and consulting companies hit that first $1 million mark.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company, or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them, and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.